Hey guys, my name is Uros, and in today's video we're going to take a look at the ARP from ANYMA Camelphat. The track is called The Signs. We'll also create our own ARP using some of the principles we're going to learn here. So let's just get going. Let's take a listen to it first. The whole song is in G minor. Okay, so that's it. Before we begin, let me just tell you, we have to again look at the patterns to better understand how this ARP is made. The first thing we can see is that the ARP is basically playing at the end of each bar. So first we have this section here, which kind of leads into the drop, leads into the next section. So let's listen to that, right? And then we have space. We have space here, and on the end of the every second bar, we have the ARP. So we have space here to bring in other instruments like stabs or some kind of lead sounds. So we're using ARP as basically as a lead sound to lead in. And so at the end like this, the leaving space, right? We're taking a break here from the ARP, right? What is important to understand is that we're using a lot of delay and reverb here. So without the delay and reverb, it wouldn't sound that good, right? So we just take a listen to that. It doesn't really stick, but once we add the delay, we get that delay, and it really helps to transition into the next bar. Right? Okay, so that's important to understand. We're also in G minor, so the bass line here in this section doesn't change, right? It's just playing a G. So what are actually the notes that this ARP is playing, right? Let's take a look at the notes. We have G, we have D, G, and B flat. That spells G minor chord. But then we also have D, G, and A, right? And this A here is really, really important because in a lot of melodic techno tracks, you will have not necessarily a note A, but you will have major second interval, right? Because that major second interval gives you tension. If you think about it, G and A, that's a major second interval, and it sounds unresolved. We're again having that A here, resolving back to B flat, right? So if we would put that A back to B flat, it wouldn't have the same sound, right? Right? It already has kind of like a resolved vibe to it, right? But once we do that, right? It's a totally different vibe. So this is also important to think about, as we'll also see in the other ARPS videos, that the second major interval is used a lot when creating this kind of melodic techno ARPS. Okay, also when I said it in the beginning of the video, we have to take a look at the patterns. And this is a pattern, obviously, right? This is a pattern of 4 notes that is just going up without any pauses. And this is actually the same pattern, right? The same pattern, just missing the lower note. But it's the same pattern. And the pattern, as you can see, it's always repeating. Only here at the end of like 8 bars, we have this turnaround, right? And as you can see, this pattern is just the same pattern as this one, but it's inverted, right? It goes down and then up again. But it's still the same pattern if you think about it in terms of rhythm, in terms of note length. It's still the same pattern. Okay, so let's also take a look at the other notes. We're having D, G, A here, like I've told you before, resolving back to B flat. And basically we're just using throughout the whole ARP section, we're basically mostly using the chords from G minor. We don't have any other note except for G minor notes and that second major interval, which is A in this example. Okay, now that we got that thing out of the way, let's also create an ARP like this ourselves. And also one of the things to think about is also like questions and answers, right? Because if you think about it, these are kind of questions and answers, right? This would be a question, and this an answer. Right? It's almost like they are talking to each other. So I hope that makes sense. Anyways, let's create our own ARP, and we're just going to duplicate all of this here. We're also going to duplicate the groove section, and for the time being, we will also duplicate this. But here we will make a few adjustments, right? We will change a couple of notes so it doesn't sound exactly the same, but we'll still stick to this pattern. So what we could do is we could put that note here to C, right? And then this one to B flat. Let's try that. Okay, that sounded cool, but it already resolved to B flat, right? And B flat is a note from a G minor chord. So let's put that down to A, and this is gonna give us some tension, right? That sounded pretty nice. We're also using a C here, right? And C is also not a note from the G minor chord, but it could be a note from G sus4. If we would have G, C, and D, that's a G sus4, right? Which is also a chord that has a lot of tension in it. We can leave that one as it is. We could also change some of the notes. Let's listen to how that sounds. And let's leave that one as it is. And let's change this last turnaround. And we can change basically every note we want. It's still gonna sound, it's maybe not gonna sound this catchy, but it's still gonna sound okay because the rhythm is going to be the same, right? The pattern will be the same, right? So let's change that one. Let's start on D. Sounded pretty okay. It didn't really sound special, but still. Okay, let's just duplicate this now, and let's just listen to it. And also let's put this one at the beginning. Okay, so the last thing I also want to point out is that all of these notes are using velocity, right? And this is quite important. As you can see here at the bottom, we have velocity, which is not always the same. And here in the ARP, in the wavetable plugin, I use the MIDI here and I increase the velocity up to 48. So that means when the velocity will be higher, it means that the filter will also open up much more. So, and this velocity just gives you a bit more rhythm to it, right? Because if we would have all the notes at the same velocity, right? Let's just make them like this. Pardon me. Right, it doesn't sound that interesting as if we have velocities a bit modified, right? Okay, so that's it for this video. Hope you liked it. Hope you learned something new and hope to see you in the next video as well.